awful. Help me out.
My wife, Tiffany, tries to seek help from her adoring father with a whiny voice. Being relied upon by his beloved daughter, her father Kyle becomes furious.
It's because of you that this child is troubled by not being able to have kids. How could you do something so horrible?
I'm at a loss for words at his unexpected remark. After all, it was Tiffany who said she didn't want kids. I wanted to confront her about why she lied, but I was too tired. I had promised to discuss it again when I returned from my business trip, but what welcomed me home was a completed divorce form. I don't care anymore. She said to file it, so I did. That was for the best. I decided to take this opportunity to try something I've always wanted to do.
What do you mean, selling the house?
Tiffany and Kyle show up at my new place.
You really have no heart. Just because we have a joint mortgage, you think you can do whatever you want.
It seems Tiffany still hasn't told her father the truth. About the kids, the house, everything. I decided to tell him everything. My name is Alex Johnson. I work for a company that plans and sells novelties to corporations. Since breaking up with a girlfriend I thought about marrying in my 20s, I hadn't felt like getting married and planned to dedicate my life to work. Then one day, at the age of 41, I had a fateful encounter. A college friend, Maya, told me she wanted to introduce me to a high school classmate.
Her name is Tiffany. She lost her mom early on and was spoiled by her dad. She's a bit selfish, but at heart, she's a hard worker and a dear friend of mine. I think she'd be a good match for you, Alex.
Introduced later, Tiffany was just as Maya had described. Her selfishness showed through, but when it came to work, she passionately explained how fulfilling her job was. She loves her work and is very dedicated, I guess.
I'm sorry, I've been talking about myself the whole time.
Don't worry about it. I enjoyed listening since it's about an industry I'm not familiar with. Plus, your enthusiasm for your work really came through. I didn't take long to fall for Tiffany, who blushed shyly. We started dating a week after meeting.
Hey, we've been dating for half a year now, right? Let's get married.
It was quick to bring up marriage, but we were both over 40. Considering our age, I didn't think too hard and decided to get married. Yeah, let's get married. Thus, we got married within 6 months of meeting. However, soon after the marriage, Tiffany showed her true colors. That day, there was a home party at Maya's place, and we both attended. The party was fun, but Tiffany seemed off when we got home.
What's with them? They look down on me because I don't have kids.
Tiffany and her friends, including Maya, used to hang out a lot in high school and still seemed close on the surface. They gather at someone's house every month for a home party. However, except for Tiffany, the others got married early and their kids are now in elementary or middle school. Moreover, she is the only one working full-time, so she often feels left out. I think they mean no harm. Just let it slide. I was dumbfounded by her transformation but tried to calm her.
You're taking other women's side over your own wife's.
That's not what I mean. If you're uncomfortable, maybe we should stop going to the home parties.
That defeats the purpose.
She seemed to have a special attachment to the parties. She was complaining but always attending. If we had kids, maybe things would be different, but she has always been averse to having children, as I heard before we got married. As I pondered what to do, a year passed since our marriage. There's another thing troubling me. That was her father, Kyle's visits.
Tiffany, I bought a limited edition cheesecake today.
At the beginning of our marriage, I didn't question Kyle's attachment to Tiffany, considering he lost his wife early and raised her single-handedly. However, perhaps because I welcomed him, he gradually increased his visits, and now he comes over daily without even letting Tiffany know in advance. It's somewhat manageable on weekdays since he leaves after dinner, but on weekends, he starts from the morning, so my days off don't feel like days off at all.
Dad, thank you always.
Alex doesn't seem to be thoughtful enough. I'll buy the sweets. If there's anything you want to eat, just let me know, okay?
That's right. He just doesn't get women. You're the best, Daddy.
Having planned to stay single for life, I had bought a house in my 30s, and Tiffany moved in, marking the start of our married life. If it were a condo, maybe I could have found a way to dodge him, but it's tough to fend off Kyle's invasions in a detached house. Thank you for your consideration. Although it was said sarcastically, I did receive sweets. So I thanked him, but he snorted.
What are you talking about? This is a special cheesecake that we can't buy without lining up. I'll let Tiffany eat all of it.
Saying that, he handed a large whole cheesecake to Tiffany.
If you want some, you should line up and buy it yourself. I'll let you know how it tastes.
Kyle's indulgence towards his daughter is excessive. The thought of this continuing for life gives me a headache. Meanwhile, on the day of the usual home party, I couldn't take it anymore. As soon as we got home, I made Tiffany sit on the sofa. Enough is enough. I understand feeling out of place with friends from high school, but speaking ill of children is crossing the line. The issue stemmed from Tiffany's comment about Maya's son.
Well, he just looks like he's not good at studying.
She had bluntly told a fourth grader.
You'd better stick to football. Otherwise, you'll spend your life at the bottom of society.
Maya and I had to smooth things over, but naturally, her husband was livid. If you hate it so much, you don't have to go to the home parties. Your dad comes over every day, and I'm already stressed out. Don't add to my burden.
You think my dad visiting is a burden? That's awful.
How would you feel if the roles were reversed? If my mom came over every day, you'd hate it.
Huh? That would be impossible.
Tiffany expressed her disgust. You're doing to me what you consider utterly impossible. Can't you just ask your dad to reduce his visits? I'm not saying he can't come over. I hoped that would make her reconsider about Kyle's daily visits, but it was not to be.
That's impossible too. I'd miss Dad too much.
Too selfish. The conversation went nowhere, with her refusing to apologize for anything. Eventually, we had a huge fight, and just when things seemed to get out of hand, Kyle showed up.
Daddy! Alex is being awful. Help me out.
What did you do to my daughter?
I just told her it's not okay to speak ill of a friend's child.
You have no heart.
He exploded.
It's because of you that she's struggling with not being able to have kids. She's just envious of other people's children and spoke out of turn. How could you do something so horrible?
What's he talking about? After all, Tiffany has been refusing to even try for children since we got married. It's impossible for us to have kids. I hadn't worried about it given our age, but to think he blames me for not having children. I wanted to confront Tiffany but was too tired. I checked the time and confirmed it was still early enough to catch a plane. I'm going to head to my business trip destination early. Let's cool off and talk when I get back. I regretted thinking I might have been too harsh while on board. When I returned home from the trip, Tiffany was waiting at the entrance.
Welcome back, dear.
We both work, so being greeted like this has never happened before. I thought it was a gesture of reflection on her behavior, but I was wrong.
I think we should get a divorce. I've written the divorce papers and left them in the living room. Please file them.
Wait, let's talk first.
I have nothing to say to you. Dad's getting special food for poor me tonight, so I'm going back to my parents' house. I'll be back tomorrow night, so pack your things and leave by then.
Leave. This is my house.
You want to kick me out after hurting me deeply with your words? You should at least give me the house as compensation.
It made no sense, but arguing seemed pointless. Then, I'll leave by tomorrow.
Just say that sooner.
She left the house with a spring in her step, passing me on her way out. Heading to the living room to check the divorce papers, I found them already filled out on the table. Just like when we got married, it struck me how this single piece of paper would end our marriage. It all felt so sudden.
I don't care anymore. She said to file it, so I will.
I immediately went to the city hall to submit the divorce papers. It was for the best. I decided to take this opportunity to pursue something I've always wanted to do. I sent my belongings to my parents' house for the time being and moved into a new home a few months later. Though I had bought my first home, I wasn't partly satisfied with it. My new home was designed down to the details according to my preferences, and I'm living a comfortable life. Then one day, Tiffany came to visit.
What do you mean, selling the house?
Next to her stood Kyle, not even trying to hide his anger. I had just decided yesterday, now that my new house was completed, that I wanted to sell the house Tiffany and I had lived in and had consulted a real estate agent. They were supposed to assess it this weekend. So, I had messaged her to move out soon. I expected her to come over since she hadn't replied, but her visit was sooner than anticipated.
You really have no heart. Just because we have a joint mortgage, you think you can do whatever you want.
It seemed she still hadn't told Kyle that the house was mine.
Kyle, the mortgage payments for that house have already been completed.
There's no way you finished paying it off within a year. Did you use Tiffany's savings to pay it all off?
Unprepared for this turn of events, Tiffany went pale after her father's angry accusation.
Wait, Dad, let me explain. Can you please be quiet for a moment?
It makes me happy to see you're still considerate of your dad even now. Don't worry, I'll get that house back for you.
Tiffany is known for her quick thinking and excellent sales performance, often receiving incentives for her work. I remembered Maya saying Tiffany was great at work but often missed the mark in her personal life, and now it seemed hilariously true.
That house was bought outright before we got married, without a mortgage. I worked for a big corporation before, and having been single for a long time, I had quite a bit of savings.
I wanted to live somewhere quiet away from the city center, so the house wasn't too expensive, allowing me to pay in full. In other words, I could sell the house as soon as Tiffany moved out.
If you still can't accept this, should I bring the purchase documents to show you?
My confidence seemed to have convinced him that I wasn't lying. He turned to Tiffany in a panic.
Tiffany, what's all this? I thought he was a poor man who just changed jobs 3 years ago, and you were paying for most of the living expenses?
Struggling to come up with an excuse, she just trembled.
So, Tiffany told you that. Do you think a husband who made his wife pay most of the living expenses could live in a mansion like this?
I now live in what could be called a mansion near the center of New York. Having decided to live a bachelor life for good this time.
Concluded. You must have been saving the money by making Tiffany pay for living expenses.
Kyle seemed reluctant to believe his daughter had deceived him.
I was scouted by my current company. The more contracts I secure, the higher my reward. That's how I was able to afford this place.
My company manufactures novelties for store openings and events. Originally, I was involved in product development at my previous job when I suddenly received a call from someone claiming to be an intermediary. There's a company that wants your expertise, and scouted me. I was surprised to receive the call, having worked on what was considered a hit product, but never expected it to reach another company. My current company pays a base salary with additional rewards for contracts secured. Considering I plan to remain unmarried and dedicate my life to work, the job offer was tempting, even if the income was sometimes frighteningly high.
Fortunately, the novelties I've designed have become well known for boosting customer traffic, leading to constant requests for my work. It's impossible for me to have needed financial help from Tiffany.
Finally understanding, he asked Tiffany if it was true. Seeing her nod, he was stunned.
Tiffany, you better start packing to move out of that house. I'll cover the down payment since you must be short on cash.
It seemed likely he was unaware of Tiffany's financial situation.
Short on cash? Tiffany works at a large company and has good sales. That can't be right.
He cautiously looked at Tiffany. Unfortunately, she couldn't deny it because it was true.
Kyle, Tiffany spends nearly all her salary on beauty treatments and luxury brands. She probably has little to no savings.
I never asked her to contribute to living expenses since it was my house, but given her spending habits, it was hard to imagine she had saved much.
I just wanted to be happier than Maya and the others. Why do they seem happier than me, even though I work so hard? Being single without kids, you can spend all your time and money on yourself, which surely means you're happier. The only reason I married Alex was that he had his own house and said we didn't need to have kids, so I could spend more on beauty treatments.
I finally understood why she was so fixated on the home parties. She was trying to show off her branded items to prove she was happier than the rest. At the same time, as much as I had suspected, I realized that I was never truly loved, which made me sad.
Maya said you were a hard worker and a dear friend.
I wonder what Maya would think if she knew Tiffany's true feelings. Just the thought makes my heart ache. Maya was my savior. My parents were against me going to college. But I wanted to study there, so I chose to live in the dorm and work part-time to pay for tuition and living expenses. I managed for 2 years. But by the 3rd year, I was physically and mentally exhausted, considering dropping out and finding a job. That's when she helped me.
Hey, you look really pale. Are you okay? Are you eating properly?
I was friends with her boyfriend, so we knew each other by sight. She seemed worried about how pale I looked when she happened to see me on campus. She offered me her lunch.
My parents run a diner. It's leftovers from yesterday, but you're welcome to it if you want.
As I ate, I started to cry.
I've been thinking about dropping out of college.
After hearing my story, it seemed she had already talked to her boyfriend about me, and they offered to help me talk to their parents.
My mom and dad asked if you'd want to work and live with us.
I appreciate the offer, but that seems too much.
Don't worry about it. Look, I'm practically living with my boyfriend now. My parents feel lonely. If you don't mind, could you sort of take my place?
I accepted Maya and her parents' kindness and started working and living with them. They treated me like their own child. Financially, it became much easier without dorm fees and with meals covered. I managed to graduate college and land a job at a big company, all thanks to her reaching out that day.
Maya thought Tiffany and I would make a great couple. True to her words, I fell for you. It's a real shame it had to end in divorce.
Tiffany seemed to be crying, but it was only for a moment, so I couldn't be sure. She ran off, followed hastily by her father. Soon after, she moved out of my house. I expected more of a fuss, but it was surprisingly straightforward, though I heard it was tough for her afterward. Turns out, Kyle had given up his house to live with her at my place. Unable to return home, they had to look for a new place. However, due to Tiffany's spending habits, which started long before our marriage, she often fell behind on rent. That made it difficult for her to pass rental applications, and Kyle faced similar issues due to his age. They eventually found a place in a rundown house, far from the bus station, with shared facilities. Maya's husband works in real estate and they ended up helping Tiffany despite all the bad mouthing. Tiffany came to my house after settling into her new life, expressing regret for her past behavior.
I wonder why I was so desperate to outdo Maya. It feels so empty now.
You should have realized it sooner.
She looked worn and her skin showed her age now that she couldn't afford her previous lifestyle.
I know you might not believe me, but I really did have feelings for you. I'm not asking for marriage again, but could you consider me once more?
She seemed truly remorseful, but I'm not kind enough to just say let's start over. If you still feel the same way in a year, I'll think about it. Realizing she wasn't completely rejected, she smiled softly, like when we first met.
So, what are you planning to do now?
When I visited Maya's family diner for the first time in a while, I ran into Maya. I hadn't mentioned Tiffany's visit, so I shared how she seemed genuinely remorseful. When I told her that she wanted to reconcile, Maya leaned in eagerly.
I told you, right? You're the only one who can take care of Tiffany.
When you introduced me, you just said we'd be a good match.
It's the same thing. So, what will you do if she confesses again in a year?
I don't know. I'll think about it then.
Though I said that, I probably already know the answer. No matter what happens, I can't help but still love Tiffany. Out of the blue, but it goes back 3 months. First off, let me introduce myself. I'm Daniel, 28 years old. I was dating Sarah, 26 years old. But then I found out she had been cheating on me with a guy named Mike, 33 years old. Furthermore, Mike was engaged to a woman named Linda. She was 30. Sarah and I have been together since college, living together, fighting now and then, but mostly playing the fool in love. However, one day, I randomly remembered how a close friend of mine went through a nasty divorce, which got me suspicious of her actions. More precisely, I got curious about her phone. My anxiety got the better of me, so while she was asleep, I checked her phone but didn't find any damning evidence at first. Just when I thought I was worried over nothing, I noticed a contact saved under Sarah in her phone, which was odd. Displaying the contact revealed a number I didn't recognize. I dialed it from my phone. Suddenly, a ringtone sounded from somewhere in the room. I seized the moment while she was still asleep to locate the ringing phone. Eventually, I found an unfamiliar phone hidden in the pocket of her coat in the closet. Sneaking into the bathroom, I checked the unknown phone. I was met with a flood of messages then. Tracing the emails back, it turned out their affair had been going on for 3 years. What a mess. Apparently, the guy was loaded and sweet to boot. I stepped outside, overwhelmed by my sadness, anger, and cowardice, and I called my best friend. Even though it was the middle of the night, but I oddly found myself laughing. The friend Ryan answered with,
"Do you have any idea what time it is? I was sleeping."
Yeah, my bad.
"What's up with you?
I need your help this time."
This time, you've got to be kidding.
Afraid it's exactly that.
Are you serious?
I wouldn't be calling you in the middle of the night if I weren't.
All right, I'm on my way. You're at your place, right? Stay there, and don't do anything stupid.
After hanging up, I forwarded emails from Sarah's secret phone to mine. The content was appalling.
I love you.
Me too. I'm so happy I met you.
I just kept forwarding those messages. Soon after, Ryan arrived in his car. I started with an apology.
Sorry for dragging you out here in the middle of the night. I didn't mean to call you out.
I'm just returning the favor for what you did for me.
He said. I showed him the forwarded messages on my phone as soon as I got into his car.
No thanks, I don't need to see all of them. It's gross. So, what do you want to do?
Given the suddenness of it all, I don't really know what I want. Honestly, I just thought of your divorce mess and ended up uncovering all this. I felt bad for calling you so late, but you're the only one I could talk to about this.
He laughed.
You thought of my situation, huh? That's harsh. So, what do you want to do?
I honestly replied.
I want to punch someone right now.
Calm down. You know that's not going to solve anything, right?
You know what? I can't stop the tears or laughter, but I'm calm.
If you do something crazy, I'll knock some sense into you.
He warned.
Thanks, I might need that. So, what should we do about those two?
After thinking it over for a bit, he suggested.
The guy's rich, right? Why not shake him down for some cash?
But I replied.
No, I won't. Unlike you, I'm not in a position to demand compensation.
Okay, then let's see.
I'm not considering hiring a private investigator, just so you know.
After pondering for a while, he said.
Let's forget violence. How about we corner them, but you figure out how to do that?
I just nodded.
Got it.
Once my bout of tearful laughter had subsided, I went back inside, put Sarah's phone back, and crashed on the sofa. The next day, just before noon, Sarah literally woke me up with a slap. Feeling absolutely terrible.
Why are you sleeping here? You're going to be late.
I had plenty of time, and my alarm hadn't even gone off yet. I left for work irritated beyond belief. It was then that the last bit of affection I had started to fade away. I had thought about giving it another go, but her inexplicable outburst in the morning made me decide on separation and revenge. From then on, I pretended everything was normal while sneaking peeks at the emails on the closet phone at night.
My boyfriend is being cold.
I'm here if you need someone to talk to.
As if the guy causing the problem could offer a solution, right?
I want to hear all about it, maybe at your place.
The idiot called Mike wants to come over to our place, huh? Well, maybe if I make myself scarce, he'll show up. Let's set something up. Anyway, I am checking the closet and saving emails like a thief every night, but she's totally clueless. They both have no idea they're being found out. I've been pretending to sleep on the sofa at night, saying, I'm just tired, while Sarah obediently goes to bed alone, sulking though. She never imagined I'd be setting a trap. First up, the classic fake business trip for 3 days. Our company doesn't even do business trips. Plus, I withdrew all our joint savings and canceled the house lease. At the same time, I signed a lease for a new place just for myself. Almost everything went according to plan within 2 weeks. Sleeping on the sofa every night, I barely got any rest, but it was worth it. The last email I saved was,
We'll see each other soon.
and
Love you lots.
that perked me right up. On the day of my supposed business trip, things went off script. I never expected Sarah to invite Mike over on the very first day. I hadn't taken the day off yet, so I reluctantly went to work. That's where Ryan came in clutch. As soon as Sarah left for work, Ryan came to my house. He moved everything I owned to a storage unit. Originally, I was supposed to move everything to my new place on a day off. I rushed through my work that day and asked my boss for early leave. It put a slight strain on my work reputation, but since it didn't affect my job performance, he let me go. Then I met up with Ryan. He finished moving everything quickly, and the house was practically empty. Not a trace of me left, as if I'd vanished. It was hilariously perfect. When Ryan saw me, he said with a bit of excitement,
This plan is pretty hardcore. You really thought it through.
I might be an idiot for not realizing sooner, but I've been fooled for 3 years. This is nothing compared to that. If she didn't like me, she could have just broken up and then gone out with him. It's just that simple step she skipped. Alright, ready to move on to the next part.
At that moment, I had another plan in mind, to involve Linda, Mike's fiancée. Somehow, Ryan had taken 2 weeks off work to track down Mike using a photo from Sarah's phone. Not only did he find him, but he also managed to locate his house, a move straight out of a private investigator's playbook. That wouldn't have been possible if Sarah and Mike didn't work at the same place. Furthermore, Ryan made sure Mike wasn't home before he approached Linda's house. Then Linda came out. After explaining everything in detail to her, She broke down in tears, unable to believe it. Ryan also shared his own divorce story with her and asked for her cooperation. She agreed to help us. In the car, on the way to pick up her, he mentioned softly,
Linda seemed like a good person. Lucky it's before the wedding.
sounding quite sad. We arrived at Mike's house, and Ryan called Linda out. I got out of the car and greeted her neatly. She looked like an average person, not exceptionally beautiful. When I said,
I'm terribly sorry for my girlfriend's outrageous behavior, and I'm really sorry to involve you in this plan.
she replied,
You apologizing won't change anything. I feel the same.
and she continued,
I also apologize for the mistake of the man who was to be my husband.
Ryan then interjected,
Linda, even though you're not married yet, what you might see today could be the worst scenario possible, something you'd never want to witness. Are you sure you're okay with this? If it's too much, you don't have to come. We'll still report back to you and provide the evidence.
Indeed, from my perspective, she looked worn out and listless, the primary victim being thrust into this mess. However, she firmly said,
I'm okay. Today, we have a family meeting planned with both our parents. No matter what happens or in what condition, we'll drag Mike back. Sarah will also be brought along. Please understand that.
Her demeanor changed from sorrowful and apologetic to determined. A warrior was born. In the car, we explained the plan in detail to Linda.
I'm breaking up with her anyway, so whatever happens next is fine by me.
Don't you have any lingering feelings?
Honestly, I did at first. But seeing her go on with her life without any guilt, I've completely lost those feelings.
I understand. I wondered if it would be bad for you if you still had feelings, but it seems I needn't have worried.
I initially thought she was frail, but she turned out to be quite intimidating. While Linda and I waited in the car, Ryan kept watch. Linda shared that she had been cheated on by a previous boyfriend before dating Mike. She had warned him.
If your cheating ever comes to light, I won't just cry and let it end there.
He had assured her.
If I cheated, I'd have to die along with the other woman. Believe me, I love only you.
Goodbye to Mike's future. Then, a call from Ryan.
They're here. No doubt about it. Ready.
The moment had arrived. I jumped out of the car and headed to where he was. Sarah and Mike walked up, arm in arm, looking pleased with themselves. I was the only one who slumped at the sight. Linda mused.
I wonder what kind of face Sarah will make when she sees the almost empty house.
She was grinning as if it was someone else's problem. Terrifying. But hearing that reignited my fighting spirit. Thank you, warrior. Even from behind, it was clear. Sarah unlocked the door, and the moment she opened it, she froze. My spirits soared. Sarah entered the house, followed by Mike. I tiptoed to the door. Then, I got a call from Sarah. Just as expected. Time for action. I swung the door open and answered the phone with,
Hello.
only for her to scream,
Oh my God!
and Mike to freak out with.
No way!
At that moment, Ryan and Linda weren't yet at the door.
Why are you here? What about your business trip?
I laughed and said,
Of course, it was a lie.
That's terrible. You tricked me.
Tricked? Compared to 3 years, this is nothing.
What do you mean 3 years?
That's when I called Sarah's other phone. The ringtone ominously echoed.
No. You saw it? Snooping around is the worst. The absolute worst.
Is the person who looked the worst? You can't forgive him.
Of course. I can't believe this.
Then it's over between us. Right here, right now. I've already moved out everything I bought. This house's lease is cancelled too. She was stunned. One last thing. Say the same thing to this person.
I opened the door and there was Linda.
Nice to meet you. I am Mike's fiancée, Linda.
Sarah froze completely at the sudden turn of events. When Mike stammered,
Hey, why are you here?
Linda coolly replied,
Why? Because you were followed, and this is the result.
Just then, Ryan popped up saying,
Oh, hello, I'm from the detective agency. We've recorded all the emails and conversations.
Whoa, an unexpected bluff. What's that about? I wasn't even informed. Mike just collapsed right there. With a sly smile yet politely, Linda said,
Thank you for your work, even if it was just for a few hours.
Ryan was like,
Oh, no problem at all. With that, we'll be off.
Linda added all with a smile.
Well, this place is already cancelled. No point standing around, let's go home. Our parents will be arriving soon.
Mike was trembling and expressing his apology. Sarah just collapsed. I said,
It might be tough, but hang in there. I'll be leaving now. If anything comes up, contact me right away.
And decided to leave. Linda thanked me and closed the door. Sarah was saying,
Daniel, it's not what it looks, wait.
but I didn't hear the rest. Perhaps she remembered I said I wouldn't listen to any excuses. As Ryan and I waited in the car, a taxi arrived at the house shortly after. All three came out of the house. From a distance, there seemed to be no physical altercation among them, which was a relief. I went to change my phone number and email immediately. I stayed at Ryan's place that night, and as planned, I used my day off the next day for the moving process. I made sure to properly thank him, and now I live peacefully as if nothing happened. As for the aftermath for the three of them, firstly, Mike's engagement was broken off. He was sued for compensation in the presence of a lawyer. It turns out he wasn't as wealthy as he claimed to be. He had to pay the expense in installments. Sarah was also sued for compensation by Linda. It was quite the scene with their parents involved. I don't know what happened to her after she paid the money in full. Linda went back to her parents' house. Before leaving, she specifically came to report on those two fools and said she would be living quietly at home for a while. As for Ryan, who worked so hard for me, he fortunately found a new girlfriend. Everything turned out well in the end. When I first discovered Sarah's infidelity, I was so shocked I couldn't even speak. Yet, with the help of my good friend, I managed to get my revenge and felt a great sense of relief. To this day, I still don't understand why Sarah chose to cheat when breaking up would have been so simple if we weren't even married. If she was just after the thrill, it certainly ended in a foolish way. I hope Ryan and Linda find happiness in the future for their help in this matter.